Today on Sports Idiot Nation, it has been less than 24 hours since the college football playoff schedule has been announced. So we'll get into that and let you know why Bama never belonged in the first place. Also, we'll go over the largest bet in regular season NFL history and let you know how that panned out. And also why, if you're Bobby Bonilla, you might get nervous. The Mets may not be able to afford to pay you.
Sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. By idiots, for idiots.
Can anyone tell me why the Bama athletic director was talking about ass when explaining why his Tide did not make the college football playoff?
This is Sports Idiot Nation.
Sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. By idiots, for idiots. Welcome, sinners. This is Sports Idiot Nation.
Welcome in. Today is December 9th, a Monday. So you can expect us bright and early as always. Sports Idiot Nation. I am Adam Marino, as always, joined by Miles behind enemy lines and Mr. T.I., Mr. 32,000. Be sure to follow on Facebook, Titans Idiot Nation. We'll find out how the Titans did, if you guys still want to. So a lot to get into. I mentioned the college football playoff. Let's start there because I will say Penn State kind of hung in. I was texting you guys that night. Just every time Penn State would kind of get close, they couldn't make a stop. And then they kind of did at the end. Of course, Oregon was too much. Shout out to Penn State for keeping it within, a football score. But Oregon, obviously the number one seed. No, there's no beef there. Miles, is there really any beef with what you saw, how everything shook out?
No, unless you're completely SEC biased. But the only beef has nothing to do with the committee selection process. It was the rules put into place before the season. The fact that Boise State is the 3 seed and Arizona State is the 4 seed, giving the Big Ten conference championship loser and the SEC conference championship loser, in my mind, an easier path to the semifinals than what Oregon and Georgia have. Because now those teams, Penn State and Texas, of course, have home games against inferior ACC opponents. And then afterwards, Texas would play Arizona State and Penn State would play Boise State, both on neutral fields. Whereas Oregon, you get probably Ohio State again on a neutral field in the Rose Bowl, which that would be a classic Big Ten, formerly Pac-12 matchup.
Right.
Or if Ohio State, chokes at home again, great. You get Tennessee then. That's not a whole hell of a lot of fun. And then Georgia, you get either a red-hot Notre Dame team or an Indiana team that would be coming off a massive win in state over the Irish and having something to prove. Clearly, any of those teams that I mentioned that Georgia or Oregon would have to face are better than Boise State or Arizona State. So I think what the leagues need to do, the ADs need to do after the season, reevaluate it. And it's fine. You want to let the top 5 conference champions into the playoff? I'm great with that. 7 at-large bids is plenty. But just seed it as is. You take a team like Arizona State that should have been probably the 11 seed, and then you have a Clemson at the 12 seed where they are, that's fine. But Boise State, the 3 seed, if they were seeing it the way they should be, then my Indiana Hoosiers would have a home game against Boise.
Yeah. T.I., what time does I see that we'll get into the IU Notre Dame. I know that's Friday night. What time does Auburn play, T.I.?
Their next big time matchup is against Purdue in a couple weeks on the hardwood. So that's their next.
No.
matchup,
The foosball,
so.
Bobby. We talking the foosball.
Oh,
the answer is spring. The spring
hold
game.
on. Let me.
Can you check the date on that? When's the spring matchup? The blue versus white or whatever.
Carry the 5. They don't play.
There's no
They don't
5.
Yeah,
There's no 5.
They don't play. There's
So-
plenty. There's plenty of 5s. That's about their average win total for about the past 3 seasons.
So, all right, Ti, if you take a look, and if I need to resend you, the picture, I can, because I sent it in our
Make sure
group chat.
Make sure it's a picture. I can't read. It has to have pictures.
Take a look at
No,
the.
I just looked at it a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much got it.
What jumps out to you?
What jumps out to me? I'll tell you what jumps out to me. Although the playoffs are super cool, it's almost like the conference championships don't matter anymore, and that's kind of sad, in a way. But that's an argument for another day. But what jumps out to me, I do like the in-state matchup there between Indiana and Notre Dame. That's kind of cool. I agree with Miles. It's kind of interesting that some inferior teams are getting a bye in a way. Reality getting a bye because they don't have to play, Boise, Arizona State. It's kind of hard for me to get excited to watch 2 teams that lost in their conference championship just get another crack at it. No offense to Penn State or Texas fans, but it's like, hey, you guys couldn't get it done in your conference championship, but guess what? You get another crack at it. And it just kind of cheapens the whole thing for me. I kind of feel like there should be a new stipulation where it's like, if you do not win your conference championship, no matter how many wins you have or losses, maybe you don't get a chance in the playoffs, and maybe another team gets in there just to give a fresh face. But other than that, I think I kind of agree with Miles. Like you have the possibility of 2 pretty awesome matchups between Ohio State and Tennessee, and then Oregon and Ohio State a rematch, or Tennessee and Oregon. Both those are going to be fun games. Oregon and Tennessee, when they're clicking, are high octane offenses. Ohio State, I always clown on them, but they're still a good team. Whether we want to laugh at them or not, they're still a good team. They wouldn't even be in this situation if they weren't. Boise, to me, I know we poo-poo on them, just because they're Boise, but who knows? You just never know, man.
They've shocked
one
us
game.
before.
It's absolutely one game. Yeah, the trick play, the hook and ladder.
Ian Johnson, the running back, and then proposed.
And then he
to
proposed
the
to his girl. Yeah.
They have 4 kids now.
But you just never know. We could be sitting here, in a couple of weeks and be like, wow, Boise State, huh? National champions. You just literally never know. All it takes is the ball to bounce a certain way. We saw when nobody thought Michigan was going to beat Ohio State. I know it's a rivalry, but none of us saw that. We all wanted it and wished it, but none of us expected it to really happen. So anything could happen. I'm thankful for a playoff. Now we can really have teams debate on who is the best out of XYZ. But I think the committee needs to go back into the drawing board a little bit and improve it a little bit in the offseason.
I think they will, no matter what. Just to recap, Arizona State, Boise State, Georgia, and Oregon are your 4 seeds who get the bye. And then you have Clemson at Texas. You have SMU at Penn State. IU stays in the state, but travels to Notre Dame. And Tennessee travels to Ohio State. And that's the matchup out of all of them. Besides IU and Notre Dame, I'll get into that in a second.
But
Tennessee
again, I completely glossed over SMU. That's another team. It's like, yeah, they earned it. They've had a good season. Shout out to the old Auburn, OC Rhett Lashley there. But
they did lose twice.
I know, that's what I'm saying. And they lost their conference championship to Clemson, and so it's like now we get to possibly see them rematch each other at some point. And it's not very appealing to me. I get it. Maybe it's a level playing field to some degree, but it's just not very appealing. So what it is,
Clemson, Clemson definitely messed up the whole thing. And UTI actually called it out in the first half when you're like, well, Clemson's about to wreck this whole thing because a 3-loss team, Alabama's is that meme of that Iranian looking guy at the Celtics game where he's wearing the black vest and it's just hands on hips. That is literally, we need to make that at Sports Idiot Nation. Follow us wherever you get your social media because we like to post those types of things. And I feel like that is
Just
perfect right now because Bama.
just like Chris Collinsworth said last night, sometimes I say dumb things. Yeah, well, we always post dumb things.
Yeah. So be sure to follow us. Remember, new episodes are every Monday and Thursday, and the most fun way to watch is on YouTube. Also, be sure to check out the link in the description because we have our gear as well and swag. And I always sip my tea now from my Sports Edit Nation mug. I also bought, and I truly needed this. I bought the at my office. I bought the mouse pad, and that's like come in handy, man. I really did need that. So check out the link is in the description. Okay, so here's what I wanted to get into. We talked about Bama being out, and just they have 3 losses, as well as Clemson, but you just don't have a leg to stand on. I don't think when you lose in conference to the teams that you lose to. And so I think deep down Alabama fans don't have a leg to stand on. And speaking of not having a leg to stand on, I was so excited to get into this with Miles a little bit. Ti may not understand at the same level, but we may educate some folks on the show today because Miles, you correct me if I'm wrong. I'm an implant. I don't have any implants. I'm an implant to the state of Indiana. So this is what I have heard. And again, Ti, we might be just dropping some knowledge on you right now. You may know this, you may not. Miles, correct me if I'm wrong. Here goes. Back in the old days, radio is how you listen to sports. And because Notre Dame basketball was not really a thing, and because IU football was not really a thing, the opposites were true. And so on the radio, you would listen to Notre Dame football, and then you would listen to IU basketball. Now, you pass down to your kids once TV started or once whatever, that your tradition is your tradition. And that so you would cheer for Notre Dame football, and then you would cheer for Indiana Hoosiers basketball. Now, some legendary coaches came through Notre Dame football and IU basketball that made that even easier for a tradition to continue. However, at this point, I'm going to take this like slavery, okay? After so many generations, like, it's over. Like, it's not a thing. Like, there's...
that escalated quickly.
Yeah. And so...
I'm just going to take this to, I don't know, slavery. Yeah, why not? Let's just kick it up a notch.
Follow me here, guys. So, and here's why I bring this up. Because I will say that my dad grew up a Dodger fan, his brother a Mets fan, my grandfather is a Rams fan. I know a certain guy who follows Notre Dame and follows the Reds because of his dad and hates the Cardinals, but his grandfather likes the Cardinals, but his grandfather also likes IU basketball, so he likes IU basketball. My point is, you can't say things like, well, I follow them because my grandfather, but then you don't follow a baseball team because of your grandfather. So it's either it is or it isn't. And here's the deal. So we know now IU is playing Notre Dame, and it's just hilarious that kids growing up would get Notre Dame football jackets and then IU basketball jerseys for Christmas, like, right? And like, hey, that was the thing at the playground, is you wear your IU basketball jersey and your Notre Dame football coat, and you wear it, and you don't care
Bobby Knight chairs that he threw at you.
And you don't care about Notre Dame basketball, which, by the way, when they had, like, if I remember, give me some names here, Pat Garrity.
Well, Tigger Phelps is head coach. And they went to the Final Four back the 70s and early 80s. Notre Dame was good at basketball,
right,
but not IU.
Right, but later though, Pat Garrity, they made to the Sweet 16, I think, or they were decent again. And now IU basketball not being as good this year, hey, we'll see what happens. I still want to try and go on Valentine's Day to UCLA.
Oh, IU basketball's terrible. We're garbage. Thanks, Mike Woodson.
Yeah, you ruined them.
You can't have both. You can't have both. You got to either have football or basketball. You can't have both. Welcome to life as an Auburn fan. Welcome to life as an Auburn fan.
How the tables have turned.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
How the turntables.
There's now it's just an issue of how many people are IU basketball fans and Notre Dame football fans who now are a little bit jumping ship and excited for IU football. And it's just like, no, you either pick IU and you stay with IU, or you pick Notre Dame and you stay with Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I don't like UCLA football, but USC wrestling because they're really good.
Yeah,
and I don't want to hear that's what my father did. Well, my father was a Dodger fan. Okay, I don't like the Dodgers. My mom used to like the Raiders. I don't like the Raiders. My grandfather hates all the teams that I hate, or hates all the teams that I love. So I don't want to hear, well, my father, especially when I know Notre Dame fans who don't like a baseball team that their grandfather likes. Oh, so you can go against your grandfather on some things. Have a backbone. I just don't understand. Like, T.I., did you learn anything just now? Or did you know all this?
Yes, I learned that I need to get over slavery. So that's what I learned.
Shout out to the South Park episode. I feel like we were just like on the South Park. What did you learn?
I thought you were going to say shout out to the South and just leave it at that.
Like in the South Park movie where it's like, chef's like, haven't you heard of the Emancipation Proclamation?
I don't listen to hip hop.
General's like, I don't listen to hip hop. Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff. So good.
Great episode.
So I got to jump in on this.
I mean, I was just going to say real quick, that's just like me being like, you know what? Well, since Auburn's really bad at football, I'm just going to go ahead and root for Alabama for a couple years in football while Auburn's good at basketball.
Well, you can't. No, that's not a good comparison because Alabama and Auburn are rivals. Indiana and Notre Dame are not rivals. They both have a rivalry.
Notre Dame won't pick a conference.
I was going to say because Notre Dame would never join a conference because they're too scared, or they just
they're in the Big East for basketball.
Not even that. That's not even true because Notre Dame and Purdue have a massive rivalry.
True.
And Notre Dame and Michigan, and Notre Dame and Michigan State. But Indiana and Notre Dame in football have played once since 1958, and that was back in 91. So
that's why this is so exciting.
The conference thing really has nothing to do with it. But I think one thing that is evading people from Fort Wayne is that you're kind of trapped in the bubble that, sure, there are people throughout the state that are Notre Dame football fans and IU basketball fans, but it's really just Northeast Indiana. Because if you look at the northern part of the state, that's South Bend. So those are Notre Dame fans. The western part of the state has nothing to do with this. Those are Purdue fans. Up from the Chicago area all the way down to Terre Haute, those are Purdue fans. Central part of the state, I mean, Indianapolis, they're really split between Indiana and Purdue. Notre Dame, sure, there are Notre Dame fans down there because Indy is a large metro area. You're going to get that. But that's mostly a split, the rivalry between Indiana and Purdue where it's at its hottest. The southern part of the state's all IU. It's all red. They hardly even know. They think Notre Dame's in Michigan. So it's really mostly just the area of the state that we're from. So that's really the hype that's all around it. And then another point to it is you talked about the radio, but also when I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, Notre Dame was the only team in the country that was on TV nationwide every week because of the NBC contract. And then also every road game they're on either CBS or ABC. So actually saying that, you have a lot of IU basketball fans and then Notre Dame football fans, it's actually true throughout the country that you have a lot of states where someone might be, let's say, a Kansas basketball fan. Guess who their football team is? Notre Dame. And I remember the TV show Coach back in the 90s where he coached at Minnesota State. And they asked the kid, hey, who's your team?
Dauber.
Notre Dame. No, it wasn't freaking Auburn. No, it was Notre Dame. So a lot of these schools, I guarantee.
I said Dauber.
I thought you said Auburn.
Dauber was great.
You said
Dauber was
Auburn.
great.
That actually makes it more funny.
So actually, if you go around the country, I bet there are a number of, I bet you'll find some UCLA fans that are Notre Dame football fans because they hate USC. So
I mean,
if UCLA
there's
wasn't that great, well, I hate USC, so I'm going to cheer for Notre Dame by default. Kansas basketball, Duke basketball, North Carolina basketball that you are going to find are also Notre Dame football fans because they were
Yeah,
on
and that's
TV, the
bull.
only team every
there's
single week. No, and that's totally fine, but it's not just, it's just IU fans, and it's throughout the state of Indiana. No, it's
in
mostly
Nashville
Northeast
too.
Indiana that you're going to find that.
I mean, there's Notre Dame fans all over Nashville. I've always wondered, like,
Sure.
growing up, I'd see people wearing their Notre Dame stuff, and it just was like, how? Like, why? What's? I don't get it, you know. But hey, it's like you said, it's always on TV. You know, it's a lot of people like when they're older folks who are like, well, growing up, I could only watch, the Cubs, or I could only watch, the Braves, or watch whoever, and they're like, that's who I like, and it's like, I guess
Well,
if
and
that's the only access you get,
I wanted to bring up the Cubs too. Like in 2005, when the Sox won the World Series, and then seeing on like WGN or the local ABC7 station in Chicago, all these Cubs fans are like, "Oh, I'm a White Sox fan now."
yeah, of course,
It's absolutely absurd.
it's the Homer meme, coming back through the bush with a new uniform on. Yeah,
The Homer Bush. I love. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean when you say that. He just levitates through it. So yeah, it is fascinating. I didn't tell you guys this, but I will be not in the literal attendance, but I'm going because my limo company got hired and they asked me to drive, and so I will be there. I mean, for what that's worth. I mean, I'll be hanging out at the bar, but I got to figure out something to wear. I wish I had a website where I could buy something that said your team sucks.
it's funny you say that.
Another great plug. Again, be sure to check out the link. Click on that. It'll take you to all different, shapes and sizes and colors of, my favorite is definitely the your team sucks in the proper colors. So whatever colors you need. I probably will go with my yellow and blue for UCLA, even though I can't talk any kind of smack with UCLA football. It's still fun to wear it. It's a good conversation starter. Although blue and yellow might look like it's Notre Dame, I might have to do something different. We'll figure it out. But and then probably match it with a hoodie. So I'm excited to go. I mean, it's the first playoff game scheduled, right? It's Friday the 20th. It's the very first game, so maybe I'll take a couple microphones and get some interviews too. That'd be really fun.
For the Notre Dame fans, if they really need one, they could get up the Alt Eagles one that we made, where it's gray and green.
Solid.
So that would work. That would work.
Yep.
Great gray T-shirt with your team sucks and Kelly Green. Like maybe not the exact Notre Dame, but it would be fun.
Arizona Cardinals, I feel like, are probably what IU fans would want to go for. I would think.
Yeah.
Those would be pretty solid because that'd be just
both
red and white. So if your team
not
sucks,
cream and crimson, but it's close.
The alt one's black and red.
Right.
Black and red is pretty tight too.
It's close enough for sure. So okay.
So yeah,
college
in other words,
football
just buy our shit, guys. Just buy our shit.
Just
hop on the website and buy
go
our
to
shit.
yeah, do it or else, or don't watch the show anymore. We're really weird about it.
Don't do that.
We're hovering over you. Yeah.
Did you click the button?
So
did you click the button?
Let's shift to NFL because we heard about this guy in Kentucky, and the largest bet ever was in the Super Bowl, $6 million. This was a measly 3.1. Now, how do you go from 1 million to 3.1? So, as legend has it, this guy in Kentucky put $1 million money line for the Eagles to beat the Panthers, and they were double-digit dogs, so it's a good bet for the money line. But how do you jump from 1 million to 3.1? I'm not sure. I want to check the mafia, or this guy obviously owes people money, right? You don't just go to Kentucky and make a bet for $3.1 million on a regular season game. So I would like to feel happy for this guy, but I know he's not taking home that money. It's going into someone else's pocket. Guido's Miles, pocket. You did the math. How much did this guy win?
Well, I didn't even do the math. I just saw a post online that he made somewhere around 400K. Now, that obviously fluctuated in time as other bets were being made, but for putting a
It
3.1
did
million
move the
bet,
line.
his return, I have no doubt about that. So he only got about a 13% return on it, but I saw that I was like, "Oh, that's an Adam Marino bet minus a couple of zeros on that."
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think the biggest shock to me was that anyone in the state of Kentucky has $3.1 million.
Right. I feel like he traveled there. I don't know if it was a Kentucky booster from Calipari's days or
He was going to go
Adolph
hide in the
Rupp's days or
hills. He
He
was,
went
yeah,
to
going to go hide in the hills if they ended up losing that game, which, woo, they were
yeah.
flirting.
So let's get into that. Like we
probably
were kind of
called up the
one
Haslams and
eye
was like,
on
"Hey, you guys want to put some money on this?"
the Titans game to see if they'd score a touchdown, and alas, they did not. And then one eye on the Eagles, and they were losing in the fourth quarter. And you can't bet $3.1 million and have your team lose in the fourth quarter. That's not a thing. Like, I wouldn't know from personal experience, but I would venture to say if you drop three large, you're not wanting to see your team be down in the fourth quarter to a Carolina Panthers. And then here you see Bryce Young doing his thing like he's back in college. Even the commentators were like, this was Bryce Young from Alabama. Like he's
that
making all
guy's
these
watching
plays
the
in
game.
the end zone.
He's like sitting at the table watching the game, just like spinning the revolver, like just please, He's just got it ready to go, because I mean,
so crazy. This
it's
dude.
not, that's what would happen to me. I mean, I'm just,
And that wasn't just three large. That was the three largest of the large.
Yeah.
Right. He ordered a large farva. So what's crazy is they almost lost because the receiver, I don't know how you people in middle school know deeper than the deepest. And somehow he beats all the Eagles DBs, rolls over on the ball, and it's incomplete. He practically lands in the end zone. They would have. Now I will say it was with about 58 seconds left, and the Eagles had at least one timeout, and all they would have needed was a field goal to win. And I hate to say I like the Eagles' chances in that to probably still win. However, you still want to score that touchdown if you can. And they blew it. But Carolina gonna Carolina. But shout out to Wayne Diesel. When I saw that bet, I posted it on his page on Facebook, and he was like, "For real?" So,
Yeah,
I know he was probably thinking about that too.
He texted me this week too. He was like, he texted me with the news about Auburn. Auburn next year is switching to Nike, and they signed a 10-year deal with Nike, and I was like, great. And I was like, well, I'm going to be broke next season, but I'm going to have a lot of new gear. So,
yep. And I'm sure so is your son, right? Looking fresh.
I don't really push the teams on him, man. I let him do his own thing. If he decides to adopt Auburn, so be it. I mean, he likes to say War Eagle and stuff, but he doesn't really. Yeah. He doesn't really sit around and watch football with me.
If he becomes a Bama fan, you're kicking him out of the house, though, right?
I mean, yeah, that's different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to tell him to drop the fries because the line's been held up and just get out of my face. Like, hey, because I don't really talk to Bama fans, but usually I'm ordering my extra value, most supersized when I do. So
drop the fries. Yeah,
President Trump got it.
Oh man. And then so we were talking also earlier about the Chiefs, and they totally chiefed that game. How their play is like a verb where it's like a bunch of field goals, they're losing a little bit. They march down the field when they absolutely need to and kick a field goal. Oh, wait, that's exactly what happened. I didn't just make that up. That was literally what happened. It's like, are they good or not? But
hey,
they're the dumbest 12-1 team ever.
I'm starting to realize their game plan. I'm starting to think that, Andy Reid is like, we don't have an identity. We just, each week we adopt the identity of the team we're playing and we play their style of football.
Is that what it is?
And we beat them at it. I mean, what else is going on? That can't be their identity. We just do just enough to win a game, and we have, arguably, Chris Collinsworth.
It's
This
the Bill
guy,
Belichick way.
we have Patrick Mahomes. I was telling Miles, I'm sitting here watching Patrick Mahomes evade a routine sack and hit the only open receiver for a 20-yard pass, and Collinsworth's like, Patrick Mahomes is doing Patrick Mahomes things. It's like, no, there's like 62 quarterbacks that can make that play, 62 quarterbacks in the NFL and, 180,000 in college that can make that play, but, whatever. So, yeah,
and here's one of them that can't make that play. William Levis. T.I., your thoughts?
Hey, he didn't make Calvin Ridley step out. Like, what is Calvin Ridley doing there, Like, he's like, hey, I need this play. Here's the ball. Calvin Ridley's like, I'm just going to step out of bounds. Like, what in the world? And he didn't make Callahan not kick the field goals. Like, they could have won the game if they just kicked freaking field goals. Once again, I will go to the grave saying, when you have points on the board, you take the points. I don't care how much time's left. I don't care the situation. When you have free points, take points, because it will always come back to haunt you. Will always.
In the NFL, there's no question, especially when you're a team that can't score points. Yeah. But I will say, going back to the Chiefs-Chargers game, I was a little off. I said the Chiefs would win the game on the last-second field goal, 19-16. They were trailing. I thought the game was going to be tied. They were trailing 17-16 and won at 19-17. But either way, we knew it was going to be in the teens, and they were going to win on a last-second either flag or field goal. So it's the same thing over and over again. But that's the Bill Belichick way. He was always asked, hey, what's your team identity? We don't have one. This is the NFL. We need to be able to do everything or anything any given week and utilize any tool that we have to beat our opponent based on what they're capable of doing. Because if we're a run-first team, well, if you go up against a great run defense, you're done. If you can adjust to your opponent, again, the NFL, this isn't college football where Bama gets to play Mercer every other week. They have to be just that much better than their opponent. And that's why they're 12-1. And with Buffalo laying an egg in LA yesterday, looks like the Chiefs yet again are going to get that first round bye and home field advantage. Awesome.
I mean, yeah, you're right though. You talk about like the Belichick way. Like, think about that Super Bowl. Was it Atlanta where James White dinks and dunks all the entire game? And like James White is wound up I think he won Super Bowl MVP. I mean, it's just like, who would have saw that coming? Nobody but Bill Belichick. Everybody will tell you if you ever played fantasy football, the last thing you ever won is a Bill Belichick running back. It's like you never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to get. So yeah, So yeah, that's what I think is going on with the Chiefs. They adopt the identity of who they're playing. They find their weakness. If they can't stop the run, they're going to run the ball 85 times. If they can't stop the run, they're going to rely on Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all those other bozos. D-Hop and the rookie Xavier Worthy. All these guys. Whatever.
Yeah.
Chefs, man.
They're like Jurassic Park. They find a way. One thing I'll say is, if you are a little bit in a slump, I was going to say schedule the Bears. However, you guys couldn't beat the Bears. So that was going to be like a funny thing. And then I was like, whoops, because I just got a notification on my watch. Caleb Williams got sacked again. So he's up to 19 sacks in the game, I think, against my Niners. Because we're not very good up front, and just looked so good.
I mean, once again, we all called it. It. I mean,
the Bears are who we thought they were, and we didn't let them off the hook.
Just the Caleb Williams thing, I mean, geez, man. And I'm seeing all these people are like, that's going to be the most attractive job in the offseason. Really? Why? Why is it the most attractive job? Why? Because you have a young quarterback? Like, no, that team, they're bad. They're bad. I mean,
he's like the fifth best quarterback from that draft class. So
I know, right?
Yeah, it's exciting.
And it's cold, and the taxes are high.
And he's out of nail polish.
He can't afford it anymore.
Yeah. That's his problem. And I think he, resulted to not painting his nails, and now he just can't get it done,
It's in his head now. He's just got old natural, and he just can't figure out how to complete a pass anymore or stay on his feet, really.
I know that guy's young, but I just think back to college where he clowned on was it the God, what quarterback was it that was crying, and he's like on Twitter like laughing at him,
And then he did the
and
same thing.
then he gets beat and he's crying, and the whole internet's like, oh, people should be nicer to Caleb Williams and not be so insensitive. And it's like, this dude was trolling his opponent, who experienced the same heartbreak. Like screw this kid, like, no, I mean, and again, I'm not coming defensive. If you're crying in the game, like, the internet's going to roast you. That's just the world we live in. So, be ready to deal with the backlash,
Yeah. I love anytime the first half stats are 318 yards to 4. That's when you know it's going well. Like, that was the first time in NFL history that a team had outgained another team in the half by over 300 yards. I mean, that is, and we're not even that good. Like, we all know that the 49ers not only lead the league in injuries by Pro Bowlers, but we're also simply not executing right now. And like, to get healthy score wise on the Bears was kind of cool, but it's like, man, the Bears are really that bad. And that division, you look at Minnesota, here they come again. I mean, it was tied at 21 in the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden, MVP Sam Darnold, tongue-in-cheek MVP. But the guy had 5 touchdowns, dude. Like, what is happening?
Not seeing ghosts. He's not seeing ghosts anymore.
He's not. He's seeing TDs.
Yeah.
Show me your TDs.
Big TDs. He likes those big TDs.
They all talk about how Sam Darnold's not going to be back in Minnesota next year because they're going to make J.J. McCarthy their guy. Now, if he goes into free agency and if we can pull off getting him in Tennessee, can he just bring J.J. with him? Because we all know that Sam Darnold without Justin Jefferson is Will Levis plus.
I just need the Jets to just make a pitch for him. Like, I just need it. It just fits the narrative. Like,
or the Niners. Could you imagine Sam Darnold with the Niners?
I mean, or Geno Smith, like either of them. Let's just see Geno or Sam Darnold be with the Jets, and it'd just be like, chef's kiss. Like, this
we should make that meme and just share it to Sports Idiot Nation. Again, be sure to follow Sports Idiot Nation wherever you get your.
We shared it a couple weeks ago.
Wherever you get your social media, remember Sports Idiot Nation, as well as check out the link in this very show for all of our gear and swag and accessories. Your Team Sucks is definitely my favorite. Definitely got a few of those shirts. Okay, so let us check in with the Metropolitans. As we're all aware, the New York Mets are orange because of the San Francisco Giants. They are blue because of the pukey LA Dodgers, and they were called the Metropolitans and are now the Mets for short. And they are not short on cash because they have just proven this. And if I'm Bobby Bonilla, I'm a little bit nervous because what is that, July 3rd? What day is the day,
Miles?
It's
the first.
It's July 1st.
First of the month. Yeah.
Until 2035? I need to fact
Something
check
like
this.
that.
They've got I was thinking it was 2034 because I was thinking it was exactly a decade, but I could be off there. It's 10 years or so left that he's
and it's been going for a while.
$1 million and change every July 1st.
It's just crazy. And I don't know if they can afford it because, good Lord, I get that having a 5-tool left-handed hitter is like the commodity that the Bryce Harpers, these guys, you definitely want them. But at what point do we just see guys at 17 years old just get a lifetime, like 22-year, like for $4.3 billion? Is that coming? Like, at this point, it's over $700 million, right? For 15 years is the official number.
Mm-hmm.
765. And Adam, real quick, you're correct, it is 2035. But I think by that 2035 date, July 1, we're going to see the first billion-dollar contract in the major leagues, and it's going to be a
Absolutely.
20-year billion-dollar contract for a player to be named later.
Well, I don't know
Hopefully
about
it's
that
my
part, but we
son.
will
Hopefully it's
see.
my son.
I think it'll be what's
He
Bronny's
doesn't
the other
play
son?
baseball, but hey, why not? You know?
What's
Right,
LeBron's
Bryce.
other son? Bryce. I
Bryce.
The
think
good
he'll.
one. The good one.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
good.
actually better.
He can actually play. He can actually play. Bronny though had a career high in the
17 points.
D League. Yeah, it's awesome. You know.
I think he had 18 turnovers though.
Meanwhile, you got that kid from Memphis dumping 51 on people's heads. You know, but you got Bronny James out here getting a career high on freaking 17 points, like 6
17
boards. Like, get out of here. You know, bro.
Yeah.
Like dude hit 12. Dude almost hit as many threes the other night for the Memphis Hustle that Bronny hadn't points. This dude was 12 of 15 from downtown.
Solid. He's no Dalton Connect. But yeah, this thing with the Mets, I don't know.
Here come the Mets.
Like, meet the Mets.
Mr. Met's a good mascot though. I like him.
Oh, solid. I love the This is Sports Center commercials. We don't talk about that enough on this program, to be honest. But the one with the Mets, and he's got the mustache going, I think, and like Carl Ravitch is trying to grow one and he can't, and he's like, "It's coming in soon. I'm gonna beat you." And like the Met is just like washing his hands and he goes out. But
the Albert Pujols one where it's like, what are they calling him?
Just
machine?
Albert.
You know,
I am Albert.
He's like scanning, you know.
Yeah.
Like
Terminate.
Yeah. Why didn't you eliminate Albert? Shut up.
Yeah. Shut up. Yeah. Or the hockey ones, because they're all Russian and they're spies. They're coming in from the ceiling. Like, those are good too.
Those are absolutely class. Maybe we need to do an episode in Evergreen committed to ESPN Sports Center commercials.
The Mannings kicking each other.
The Steph Curry one where they're like, he's like, yeah, man, I keep having these good games and they just keep making this food or whatever for me. And it's like,
I like some every night for you, brother.
For you. And the guy's
Who's
like, who
guy?
are you? Because he wasn't even Steph then. Like, he was like an all-star, but he wasn't like Chef Curry. Like, we know him now.
Top 10 player of all time. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, big time Timmy Jim. He's like, I don't even say that. He's trying to set his voicemail. He's like, Timmy, big time Timmy Jim.
But the best is, you know, rest in peace, you know, but where he's wearing the Slayer shirt, you know, and he's like, Mom, you know, I'm done doing my segment, you know, and rips
John
his
Clayton.
shirt. Yeah, John Clayton rips his shirt off.
Shirt.
You know, he's got Slayer. He just his sleeves
hair
off. Yeah. Oh man.
Like, yeah, I'm done with my segment. Yeah.
Mom, I'm done. And he picks up his like Chinese food from leftover from last night, and he's like,
it's such a Will Ferrell moment. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, we can't keep talking about it because we're going to ruin the episode when we actually shoot it.
Right. Let's end there and let's talk about, are there a contract that makes sense, to be honest? Like 15 years is actually hilarious, and on this show, Sports Idiot Nation, it's kind of great that it happened because we can just make fun of it. I mean, 15 years, like even if the guy was 18, I mean, I get he's young, but even if he was 18, that would still be redonkulous. But I feel like 7 to 8 years. Ti, what is a good, if you're getting someone for the Braves and he's up and comer and he's had an MVP caliber season, what do you want them to sign him for?
Well, I don't like the Braves, so I hope they don't sign anybody that's any good.
Oh, I thought, why did I think
the Cardinals?
Oh, that you live
the Cardinals. Yeah, if it's right. My first major league game I ever went to was Braves Cardinals on July 4th, and the Braves beat the Cardinals, and I am forever indebted to my hatred for the Braves. But I did get to see the Cardinals. I did get to see the Beach Boys afterwards and got to see fireworks. So, you know, it wasn't all bad for an 8th grader. An 8-year-old. Excuse me. Man, I sounded like Big Lebowski there. 8-year-olds, dude. 8-year-olds. But yeah, so I agree. Young males have moment of clarities where they just decide that they want to do something different or don't want to do the thing they're doing anymore. And 15 years is a long time. Just assume that, not only am I going to be a high caliber, player for this amount of years, but I'm just going to keep wanting to keep playing for the Mets, B, keep playing baseball. Like, yeah, 7, 8, 10 is a stretch. I mean, we saw Ohtani get a 10-year deal, and even that's a lot. So, yeah, I think that they need to be revisited. If it was me, I'm throwing down maybe 7, 8 if I'm outbidding somebody. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe they were trying to just outbid, the Yankees and some other teams, and they were like, look, we'll go ahead and give you a 15-year deal. We're going to guarantee X amount of money. And then that was the selling point. Because, I mean, what did we talk about? The whole difference in money was like $5 million. I mean, come on, when you're making that amount of money, what's $5 million?
Who cares? Yeah.
And is there income tax in New York? I don't know. I'm not too familiar.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, like,
it's absurd.
It's like when Pujols went out to, LA, it was like, well, there were Cardinals still, people were like, well, Cardinals didn't try to keep him. It's like, well, they actually offered him more money. It's just like when you take the property tax, I mean, the income tax and all that effect out there, like he actually made less money to go out there. So it's, it's just, you never know, you never know what's going on inside their heads. But yeah, that's a huge deal that I would not make, no matter how good the player is. I would say maybe there's a clause in the contract where we'll sign you to an 8-year deal. In year 7, we revisit it, and you have the option to extend it to 16 years at that point or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
crazy.
Well, I'm interested to see how progressive this contract is. I still haven't seen the breakdown. I don't know if you guys have, but I'm curious to see the payout year over year. But my biggest thing, aside from injury and production, is Queens might go underwater in the next 15 years. So it's like the Mets may not even have a baseball team. It's ridiculous.
Right.
He's 26 years old, and you think in almost 2040, where the guy's going to be, 41 years old, that he's going to be worth over 50 mil a year. Again, it's probably not going to be 50 mil because of how the contract's set up. Again, haven't seen it, but this is just I think the move to get back at the Ohtani deal, trying to keep themselves relevant in the media, because the Mets, they're a good team last year. They lost to the Dodgers in the NLCS, so it's nothing but a horse race. And when you have that money, because it's New York money, they can do it. But I think it's more for shock value than anything. Being it's December 9th, and they want to stay hot in the market.
Yeah, at least he can afford to, buy his family Christmas presents now, So
good on New York rent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, last time I was in New York, hot dogs were like $15. So, I guess he needs that
You can
money.
buy a lot of them.
Yeah.
Few.
Buy a lot of hot dogs. Maybe that's why. Maybe he
buy
put
all
that
of
in his
them.
contract. Listen, I really like hot dogs. I'm going to need a 15-year deal if I'm going to keep buying these hot dogs.
Because a hot dog is a wiener in the bun. And so, gotta have it. Speaking of gotta have it, remember that you got to like and subscribe to our show, as it is every Monday and Thursday. And, what's that sound?
Mayday! Mayday! Cover your brains, boys and girls. Put on your tinfoil hats, because this is Idiot of the Week.
All right, you idiots and sinners. This week's idiot is Greg Byrne, the athletic director from Alabama. And he's not the idiot because he's complaining about Alabama being left out. He's an idiot because of the path he sees going forward for the Crimson Tide football team. After going 9-3, he thinks the way for them to get back into the playoff hunt is to revisit their non-conference schedule. Well, when doing so, he said, and I quote, "We need to asses how many Power 4 non-conference games make sense in the future to put us in the best position to participate in the CFP. This is not good for college football." Well, your ass ain't good for college football, buddy. And on top of that, what made it really sweet was Elon Musk boys put a community note on it saying, It ain't have nothing to do with your non-conference schedule of Wisconsin, South Florida, Western Kentucky, and Mercer, who they've played like 6 times the last 15 years. That ain't it.
Mercer.
You lost 3 games to a team like Vanderbilt, and you went on the road to Oklahoma and you got blasted by 3 touchdowns. That's why you ain't in it. And to add to it, Nick Saban, the first words out of his mouth about Alabama being left out is the exact same thing. Well, we're not going to schedule big-time teams. And again, he's still talking about it's still his team because his hands are still very much in that pie. No, you go out, you play your schedule, you win. And also the SEC, you only play 8 conference games, and you've got, 16 teams in the SEC now? No, you need to get to 9 conference games, and you need to play at least one P4 school in the non-conference, and I think that needs to be across the board for all the P4, maybe P5 if the Pac-12 decides to come back to life. But Craig Byron, you this week's Idiot of the Week.
Roll Tide.
Big time. We'll see December 31st. Did you guys see who Alabama drew in their bowl game? Michigan.
Oh.
So that'll be interesting because you talk about scheduling. Yeah, the football NIT. What's interesting is they talk about scheduling opponents like a Michigan. Like these are teams that they would talk about trying to schedule. Now, I get a bowl game is not, a scheduling, but I wonder how that's going to go. I don't think Michigan can hold. I say that and they freaking beat Ohio State, but I just don't think on Michigan's good day and on Alabama's good day that they can hang with Alabama. And that's not SEC bias. It's just it's Alabama, man.
Well,
they're still pretty darn good.
They're totally different teams because so many players for both teams are going to opt out of that game. Bowl games are not what they used to be.
That's
because plenty of Bama, and I assume more Bama players are going to opt out than Michigan players. So it's going to be, hey, let's give a look to the guys that we expect to be back next year, and also the guys that opt out not just for the NFL draft but to enter the portal. So the non-college football playoff games are just going to be a shell of what these teams actually were. Now, with that being said, Bama away from Tuscaloosa has been nothing short of awful this season. And Michigan, since the second half of the Indiana game through the Northwestern game, where Wildcats not very good, but they shelled them by 50, and then that Ohio State game they obviously won. Michigan, the last 2.5 games, started playing like a top 15 team. So if there's any carryover of that into the bowl game, yes, Michigan absolutely has a chance to win. But we'll see what the roster makeups are here in the next couple weeks, because it could be a bunch of freshmen and sophomore from both sides going up. And it's it's essentially like a preseason college football game previewing that 2025 season. So I wouldn't put a lot of value into it. Used to, when I was younger, do all the bowl game pick'ems and everything like that. There's no point anymore because it's like who's going to actually show up? Who's even going to participate in these games? Again, outside the 12-team playoff, it's just, hey, watch it, enjoy it. If your team's involved, you see the future of potentially what's to come. Because hell, even half those players could enter the portal in a couple weeks after the game.
I mean, Miles, how can you not get excited for the Meineke CarQuest Bowl? I
will say I am jacked. I am jacked for the Birmingham Bowl. Georgia Tech and Vandy, 2 teams that are institutional schools that punch way above their weight class, their talent. Like, those are 2 of the hardest playing teams in the country. I think that's going to be one of the best bowl games. I mean, that game is going to be ground and pound. It's going to be gritty. And it's going to get, I think, a little chippy as well. I am genuinely pumped for the Birmingham Bowl.
Those students are going to break out their pocket protectors and their calculators, and they're going to go to town.
So when you go to town and you go to these games, make sure you check out our gear and you wear your team sucks in the color that you would like. Again, the link is in the description. And remember, new shows are every Monday and Thursday. So for everyone here at Sports Idiot Nation, we will see you Thursday. Okay, all you sinners, follow Sports Idiot Nation on TikTok, X, and Instagram. Like us on Facebook, and remember, the most fun way to watch us is on YouTube every Monday and Thursday. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you can be updated when new content drops. Remember, the podcast can also be found on the usual suspects of Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Always remember, don't be an idiot.
Sinner.